JBL Nation, Mike Colasar back here with our first Clubhouse report in 2021. Our special guest today is recognized as the internet's most followed baseball and softball coach with over 70,000 followers on Instagram, 130,000 on Twitter, and 500,000 followers on Facebook. I have a feeling that number is going to increase after our baseball and softball community views this interview. He's got a YouTube page. He has a website, a podcast, all with great content, a book called Dear Coach that you can purchase on Amazon, which is kind of, you think you've heard it all kind of book, but you haven't. He's the founder of the Hitting Vault that's dedicated to helping players unlock their body. You name it, he's coached it from Little League to travel ball to college ball at all levels, and as well as working with the MLB club, Chicago White Sox. Please welcome Coach Matt Lisle. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. So, Matt, what motivates you to motivate others on a daily basis?
For me, I just look back at my life and my career in coaching and athletics, and I think about all the people that poured into, invested, and loved on me as an athlete, as a coach. And for me, that motivates me to also kind of just, continue that thing. And so for me, it's really about trying to give back in a way that people gave to me and blessed me in my life. So that's really the biggest motivator really to me is, and honestly, I'll tell you, I know people that, it feels good. It feels good when you help somebody and they recognize that and they appreciate that. And, I'll say my love language is words of affirmation. And so, when I help somebody and they say, hey, coach, I really appreciate that, that fills my cup a little bit. And that makes me feel good too.
That's excellent. You most recently posted on your social media account about D1 or bust mentality. And I could not agree more, by the way. But why do you think that is the mentality?
I'll tell you, in my experience, I've been doing this over 20 years now. I just think that, and I'm a parent of 5 kids. So I understand it. I get it. You want what's best for your kids. You want that, you want the top, you want the best. And it's a competitive, crazy world with travel ball. So I think, I really think it's driven mostly by parents. I think back to when I was a kid, I had some dream schools, but I never thought about like D1, D2. I didn't really think about it in that way. And I know nowadays, I just think there's so much hype around it. Social media gets a lot of attention. So I understand the draw of it. And I tell people, hey, I think it's awesome to dream D1, like do that, like dream for it and go for it, make it a goal. But where we get in trouble, parents and especially athletes, is when you say that's my only option, and realize that 1% to 2% of the kids in the entire country are going to get that, and you block out every other opportunity for you, you're really missing out on great opportunities. And I've coached NAIA, I've coached in the SEC, I've coached in the Pac-12, and I can tell you the kids that I have coached and the experiences they have had have been just as good at the NAIA level as the D1 level, and you can have that experience based on the coach and the school and your friends and stuff like that. So I get the allure to it. I just think that a lot of kids miss out on opportunities when they have that mentality.
Of course. I mean, you want them to go somewhere where they're going to play. And as a parent, you want to go watch them play and not have them sit for a year or two, potentially in some cases, if they do take that route. So you've mentioned this before, that sports should be about the kids and their passion and not about parents and their goals. Something we've been seeing more and more on our end is what we refer to as national ranked dad syndrome. So what we mean by that is all parents care about, and in some cases coaches, are various national rankings instead of focusing on development. So for team rankings and coaches who chase those stats, you see the focus shift from developing the players to more of a revolving of guest players to chase down that ranking. In your opinion, is this something that you'd call BS on? Like when do you realize, or do you think it's important at all for national rankings for a player or a team? Does it matter ever?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the allure and the fun of it. Like to me, it sounds like it's fun, exciting. Like you're ranked, and you can brag at your dinner parties and on Facebook, that your kids rank this. So I understand that part of it. I think there can be some fun to there. I would just say, I mean, anybody who's had kids understands how they develop and the speed at which they develop. And I will tell you a couple different stories. Like my uncle, my mom's brother, he was he's considered one of the greatest high school baseball and basketball players in California. He was a 3rd-round pick from the Chicago White Sox in 1973. He was 6 foot at 12 years old, and he was like that kid in the Little League World Series that you saw just dominate because he was literally 6 foot at 12 years old. And he went on and had played the minor leagues and was drafted, had this great high school career. But I'll tell you what, when I got to the University of South Carolina, and I coached softball there in the SEC. And the first week, I sat down with every player and I got to know them about their families. And I always ask kids what their recruiting story is. And I'll tell you what, we were 8th in the country at one point in the season and finished in the top 10. And I would tell you 75% of the girls on that team that I asked them about the recruiting journey, they said I was a late bloomer. I was under the radar. My sophomore year, my junior years when I really started getting going. So like, again, I understand the ranking thing and all that stuff, but if you're a parent who's been around kids or had kids, remember kids. I mean, I was the shortest kid in 8th grade in the class. I was 4 foot something. And my freshman year, I went from like 5 feet to 5'10", literally in that freshman year. And, so if you were to rank me as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, I wouldn't have been ranked I wouldn't have showed up on anything. And so I just think parents need to understand in regards to development, like just human bodies, like kids develop at different levels and skill set too. I was just following a pro golfer, and I forget who it was. He's big time, making multi-million dollars. And they said when he started playing, he's like, "Oh, I picked up clubs at like 10 years old." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we got kids nowadays who are full-time playing year-round at 10 years old. And I forget, there's another, as a major league player, I forget who it was, in an interview one time, he said he didn't play baseball until he was 15 or 16 years old. And so, I would just say it's like the ranking stuff is fun. I get it. It's fun to share. I bet your kids rank this as a 8U player in whatever sport. But I think that from what I've noticed, parents, they hold on to that so deeply and make their whole kid's career about marketing and promotion, and the development piece starts falling off slowly while the kids who are hungry and not ranked, so and are working on development, are just every day catching them a little bit more and more. So it's tough.
Do you think that there's another level to it as possible, like mentality wise, for a young player to feel like there's some kind of status that he needs to uphold? Because as a kid, you want to always make your parents proud. Like, is that a piece that's missing when we talk about this?
Oh, totally. I mean, you think about, I talk to so many kids nowadays, even college players who will tell you that, that when they do well, their parents love them more. Like and that's the perception they receive. They know that they get more love. So that's part of it. Like, hey, you know what? My dad treats me a lot better now that I'm ranked. And that's real. Or if I go 4 for 4 and hit a home run in a game, like they know that dad's now maybe, or grandma gives me $20 when I hit a home run, or whatever the thing is, like they know that. So, and then there's status of it, thanks to social media. I'll see a sophomore in high school on Twitter say like, thanks to blah, 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 I'm ranked 5th in the country as a 15U player. It's like, yeah, totally. I mean, I was a 15-year-old kid. I would have done the same thing if you pumped me up for that. The problem you have with it is that, again, from a drive standpoint and a business standpoint, I'll tell you, I coached there's a current Major League Baseball player that I coached in high school, and his junior year, he signed his D1 scholarship. And I noticed as a coach, like once he signed that D1 scholarship, that he definitely, like his effort level, his work ethic, it kind of dropped off a little bit. And we had to have a talk like, hey man, your journey's not over because you signed the paper. You got to keep going. And I think for a lot of kids nowadays, if we give them tons of rings and trophies and we give them the rankings, that at some point they look around and go, hey, I'm the best player in my class. I don't have to continue to work hard. And then they get to college and they realize everybody in the locker room is just as good, if not better, or ranked higher than them at some point. And now they're not in the starting lineup, and all the things that happen when you put those type of expectations and onto athletes.
So as a father of 5, I'm sure you had to make some of these decisions possibly already. So if you were to put your dad's shoes on right now, like I'm guessing we know the answer, but what would you want your kid to play for? An organization that focuses on development and playing to grow them as a person, player, team? Or is it to to have them eventually be part of something that's nationally ranked and grow with that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a scale in the sense of level. So for me with my kids, yeah, I mean all the way up until as high as level as possible. I want a good coach, a good culture. I want to work on development, and I want that to be the sole. I don't care if they win or lose, if they win championships. And now I'll say as the kids get to like 16U, 18U, and now like I've coached nationally ranked travel ball teams, and again, like when you're playing in national championships, you're playing in the Junior Olympics, and you're playing at in these finals, and there's tons of scouts in the stands. Like that's awesome. But when I see an ad for like a 6U World Series or an 8U World Series, to me, I'm like, as long as the kids are like, it's totally fun and there's no expectations around it, I'm all for the fun of it. But like the idea behind like showcasing kids at like 12 years old and 14 years old and stuff like that is just, it's crazy to me. I would rather my son, daughter to focus on the development as long as possible. And then when he gets to that level, now we've got a combination. Hopefully by 16 years old, 17 years old, that sophomore, junior year, we have that good, healthy combination of, hey, you know what, we're really focusing on development, but we're also like making sure that, we're trying to get in front of the best coaches and the best programs we can as well. But until that age, until they're, maybe sophomores or so, freshmen, maybe, there's no way I'm going out there just looking for a program that rolls the balls out and, showcases.
I think that ties in well with my next question. Is you have a quote, anybody can trust the process, but champions love the process. So we all know that failing is part of the process, but overcoming that failure is probably the hardest part, especially at the younger ages. How do you help your own kids, through those tough times? What's your advice to others to how to love that part of the process?
So I just think like the term trust the process to me, it has been a great one. I just think nowadays there's so many formulas and processes that you could follow X, Y, Z, and you can get whatever's done, whatever goal you want to get done. But in my experience, the athletes who actually succeed and go on to the next levels, like they trust the process, sure, but they actually love the process. And what that means is that I tell kids all the time, loving the process means that you put down the PlayStation and the iPad, YouTube, and you go out in the backyard and practice on your own without your mom or dad yelling at you to get off the screen and go practice. That's the difference between trusting the process, loving the process. And so you got to actually love it. So when I talk to parents about helping your kids to do that, it's really about creating this environment that allows that to be a fun thing for them versus a chore. If my 9-year-old right now, I want him to go out and hit off the tee or play catch with me. Like, I don't want to make it miserable. We try to make it as fun as possible. So I always trying to find ways to make those things fun. And for me, like with my son, he's a 9-year-old, and I have a little pocket radar. And we're not working on velocity, but it's fun for him to throw into the net and me to yell out 34, 36. And he just, like, for him, I know he's wired like me. He's kind of a nerd and competitive. And so he likes that thing. So I'll hold the radar gun and just say, throw into the net. And he tries to hit. And so I know that motivates him. So finding what motivates your kids to have fun in the game, and again, to create this environment. And I would just say the biggest thing that I have seen have success is when parents communicate to their kids permission to fail, so that when they go to the game, I take my son to his basketball game and I say to him, hey buddy, if you don't score a single point, or if you don't, let's say he wants to score 8 points in the game, that's his goal. I say, hey buddy, even if you don't make a single point after the game, we're still going to get ice cream and we're going to have fun. I don't care how many points you score. It's going to be fun. Or if you strike out 4 times in your baseball game today, just so you know, I still love you and we're still going to, have a fun day doing stuff. And I think that parents assume the kids know that, but their actions show kids that when they are practicing or when they're in the games, when they perform well, parents give them high fives and love. And when they don't, they don't. And when you create that environment where it's predicated on their performance, a lot of kids don't thrive in that environment. And it just, for me as a kid, I wouldn't want to continue to do a sport that I know that my parents are not going to be, happy with me if I don't perform well.
Absolutely. Well, players listening at home, we'll leave you with one last quote that Coach Matt has shared before. If you are not humble, it's hard to be coached. If you can't be coached, it's hard to get better. Matt, we appreciate your time and your insight. This was great. Everybody, please don't forget to follow Coach Matt Lisle on social media at Coach Lisle. We'll post that for you guys. He just posted another great one recently with a piece of advice to an athlete's parent. Thank you all for listening. Hoping to see everybody at the ball field in just a couple short months. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.